What has happened and what the Japanese government will do about it. We're being told to expect that the Prime Minister will address the nation once that cabinet meeting is concluded. We expect that to happen relatively soon.
Okay,
and to help
Harry,
family
thanks for that
and
update.
neighbors.
This is the Prime Minister of Japan speaking right now. Let's listen into what he's saying.
To minimize the damage. We ask you to act in such a way that it will be possible to minimize the damage. This will be my greetings as the head of the Disaster Relief Headquarters.
Prime Minister Naoto Kan, they're saying that he will do everything possible to aid of what happened at the situation.
Okay, that was the Japanese Prime Minister with an address there on television telling people that they were trying to minimize damage and asking people to take all the precautions that they can. Now we're joined on the line from Tokyo by Kim Williams. He's an English teacher working in that city. Kim, tell us what you experienced when this earthquake struck.
Well, I was teaching in the university and the quakes started, and the Japanese people generally have a fairly sort of robust and phlegmatic approach to earthquakes. But this is the first time I've actually seen kind of look sort of genuine concern on my students' faces. So we evacuated the building, in fact the entire university decamped to the street. Then we went back into the building after about 10 minutes, and then another quake struck. So we evacuated again, and then everyone went home. Things now have calmed down. People are kind of carrying on with life, but I've seen people watching the news in TV shops and stuff about the tsunami that's happening on the coast. It was kind of worrying experience. It was larger than any earthquake I think that any of my students have experienced in their lifetime.
And what is the situation there right now?
In central Tokyo, life is kind of going on as is. There are children walking around with protective headgear on, but it's kind of calmed down. I think people are more concerned about what's happening on the coastline.
Okay, and well, stay with us. I just want to update our viewers on a piece of information we're just getting, that one woman is reported to have died after a building collapsed her. That was in Ibaraki Prefecture. That's in the wake of this earthquake. 8.9 magnitude earthquake, which has struck off the east coast of Japan, and that report coming to us from Japanese television, the network NHK. If you're still with us over there, you said things are going on as normal in Tokyo. Are people returning to their offices? Are they continuing to work? Are they returning to their homes?
The university was now, but it's come to the end of the working day, so I imagine many people have gone home.
Okay. All right, sir, we're going to have to leave it there, and our apologies for the poor quality of that line there to Tokyo. Let's go back to Harry Fawcett right now. Harry, we're getting the first reports that of casualties. NHK television in Japan reporting that one woman has died in Ibaraki Prefecture.
Right, yes, I've just heard that report as well. That is the first definite death that we have heard of from this massive earthquake and tsunami. We had heard reports earlier of a number of casualties coming from Miyagi Prefecture. That's the eastern coastal prefecture closest to the epicenter of the earthquake, 120-odd kilometers offshore. Police had told Kyoto News Agency that there had been a number of casualties. They weren't any more specific than that. The other definite report we'd heard of injuries came from a graduation ceremony at a Tokyo university where 600 students had been at that ceremony, and the roof caved in. Again, the fire department reporting a number of casualties, a number of injuries, but we weren't told any greater detail than that. But as you say, we can now report that one woman has been killed at least by this earthquake. And
we just heard from the Japanese Prime Minister there, addressing Japanese on television. We're also getting a report that the Japanese government, I would presume, has put together an emergency team. I guess this would be the team that will coordinate all the rescue efforts and damage assessment efforts that are going on right now.
That's right. A number of governments worldwide have a special emergency cabinet which will be convened in times of serious difficulty such as this. You're looking there at coastal towns swamped. And so, yes, that emergency cabinet meeting is, we're being told, underway at the moment. And the Japanese Prime Minister is expected to address his people, address the nation, once that cabinet meeting has been concluded. And so long prepared wishes that these preparations would never have to be put into place, but at least they are there. And this emergency action will be they will have been waiting to enact these emergency preparations, and that's exactly what they'll be doing now.
We just spoke to one of the residents in Tokyo there. That was Kim Williams, who is an English language teacher there in the Japanese capital, telling us that life is slowly returning to normal, that people are returning to their offices, returning to their homes. Does that surprise you?
It does a bit. Obviously, not having felt this earthquake myself, but looking at pictures of people at the very moment it struck, the sheer power of it, and the fact that so much of Tokyo, in terms of the transport network, was shut down, 4 million homes without power. It's certainly been felt, the impact of this earthquake, very strongly in Tokyo. People were rushing out into the streets trying to ensure their own safety and get out of potentially damaged buildings. And so the idea that they're now re-entering those buildings and getting on with their normal work day just does seem extraordinary. But I suppose you can just say it's testament to the fact that Tokyo is so well prepared and that its buildings are so well designed to absorb this kind of impact.
Okay, Harry, stay with us on the line now from Raglan in New Zealand. We have Dr. Jose Barrero. He's a tsunami scientist. He joins us there from New Zealand. Sir, what kind of tsunami warning would be issued now for that whole area around the Pacific Rim?
Yeah, the whole Pacific Rim is on a tsunami watch and warning status right now. It is definitely it's a severe event. The magnitudes were increased rapidly from the very first reports that came through up to now. We're up to around 8.9, which is indeed a large event. So it's definitely we've seen what's come out of Japan. Actually, I'm sort of at a bit of a disadvantage because I don't have a television, so I can't see the reports coming in. I'm watching some on the internet, but it's hard to see. And given what's happened in Japan, we should definitely keep aware of it. There's a lot of travel time until the first waves reach Hawaii, but the real-time buoys located in the Pacific have recorded this event, and it's on the order of 1 meter in the open ocean at this point in time.
Now, the fact that the epicenter of the earthquake was relatively close to the coast, about 125 kilometers off the coast, and was also in relatively shallow water, about 24 meters deep, would that generate a bigger tsunami wave or waves, or would they be less? Would they be much lower?
The fact that it was a shallow earthquake makes it worse in terms of the potential for tsunami generation, and that was one of the first things that actually perked my ears up when I saw the initial reports. Now, the initial reports, of course, the initial information about depth is usually not very well constrained. The information that comes out in the first few hours after the event until more data is processed, but the fact that the initial estimates put it so shallow is a cause for concern, and it will be a tsunami has been generated, and yeah.
And in terms of preparation, in the aftermath of that earthquake several years back, the Asian tsunami rather, that killed so many people, in terms of preparation right now, would countries around the Pacific Rim be better prepared right now?
Absolutely. Already I've been in discussions this evening with New Zealand geophysicists and hazard officials. We have a working group that convenes straight away. I've already have my tasks in place, which I will get to as soon as I'm done with this phone call. And so New Zealand is aware and responding to the threat, and definitely the countries around, especially in the Pacific Rim, are aware. We've all received our emails and alerts, and hopefully these messages have gotten through to the emergency planners around the country and around the world rather. And indeed, they're supposed to be ready for this event. It's so much more on people's minds these days.
Now, we're just looking at some dramatic and extraordinary pictures of a wave which was washing up along the east coast of Japan. That wave washing away cars and boats and tearing away buildings along the coastline there. The wave, of course, and the waves, I should say, would take a longer time to reach those coastlines that are further away from the epicenter. What kind of timeline are we talking about around the Pacific?
Yeah, unfortunately, I just closed that window that had my travel time map, but here in New Zealand, we're waiting. We should see arrival around 12 hours. I believe Hawaii was in the 6.5-hour range, and longer for areas further afield. But I believe the Marshall Islands I was looking at were in the 9-hour range, and those are the sorts of distances or times that we're looking at.
So in New Zealand, if you're talking about 12 hours, presumably New Zealand will be well prepared for something like this.
Yeah, we're definitely New Zealand is prepared. The warning centers are talking to the people who will be on the ground. One thing that is positive for New Zealand is that it will arrive when it is low tide on the northern coast of New Zealand, so that is a positive. We're not expecting a wave much larger than 1 meter here because of we are significantly off the axis of the main beam of energy that's going to be released by the tsunami. Most of that energy is traveling to the central Pacific Ocean, and so New Zealand is significantly off axis from that.
But still, 1 meter could do significant damage to towns and cities along that coastline.
Not really, no. A meter, the tide here is on the order of 2 to 2.5 meters, so it's really not much bigger than the normal tide, or it's not even the magnitude of the tide range here.
Okay, sir, thank you for joining us. That's Dr. Jose Borrero, a tsunami scientist talking to us from New Zealand. Now, you're watching Aljazeera's extended coverage of the powerful earthquake that struck off the coast of Japan. Let's go through the latest developments. The U.S. Geological Survey are saying it measured the earthquake at 8.9 magnitude at a depth of 24 kilometers. That's regarded as a shallow depth where major damage can be expected. It was centered off the coast 380 kilometers northeast of the capital, Tokyo. There's now a tsunami warning in effect for Japan, Russia and the Mariana Islands. A tsunami watch has been issued for Japan, Philippines and as far across the Pacific as the island of Guam. Now, in the capital, Tokyo, a large building could be seen on fire and workers rushed out into the streets. A 4-meter tsunami washed away cars and a bridge in Kaimashi City. Japan's defense ministry has scrambled military aircraft to assess the damage. According to Japanese television, all public transport in the capital has been stopped. Rail passengers have been left to walk along the lines. The quake has sent tremors through the financial markets too. Japan's Nikkei closed down 1.7%, hitting a 5-week low. And Japan's top oil refiner has halted operations of 3 refineries in Sendai, Kaishima and Negishi. But one installation in Chiba is still ablaze. Al Jazeera senior meteorologist Steph Galtez joins me now in the studio. So, Steph, what would the situation be along the Pacific Rim countries right now?
Well, they'll be nervous and they'll also be watching the buoys. There is at least a whole network of buoys across the Pacific to measure things like a tsunami when they start going across. So at least places further away will have more warning. That's the thing that we can at least get some kind of comfort from. But for Japan itself, it's a devastating earthquake. To put it